With the amount of data in our world increasing, federal leaders are investing time and effort into building architectures designed to deliver better services. As new frameworks begin to emerge, how will these data architectures address the age-old challenge of data silos? Welcome to this Federal Innovator Podcast series. I'm George Jackson with GovExec TV. Contemporary data frameworks are changing the way government operates, increasing visibility and enhancing efficiency. But how will agencies get there? That's the focus of today's episode. I'm joined now by two experts in the field of data governance. Dave Mooney is Services Management Section Chief in the Cybersecurity Division at CISA. That's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. For those of you who don't know it, Dave, welcome. Thanks for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Joining us remotely, Dr. Jennifer Sample. She is Managing Director at Accenture Federal Services. So, Jennifer, I'm really pumped to get you on the program. Thanks for your time, ma'am.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So, Dave, I'd like to start with you. Maybe a broad question to begin with. You know, we're talking about the current state of data, the current state of information management for the federal government. So, what does that look like right now?
Yeah, data management and the implementation of it has been really ad hoc. There's pockets of success, and the federal government has taken a lot of focus, and CISA especially taken a lot of focus in how do we mature that, how do we grow, standardize a lot of that work, find these pockets of excellence, bring that across the entire enterprise, across the federal government, share those lessons, share those success stories, talk about that success, and then replicate that across more and more programs. The federal government is obviously full of many different programs, of some being more legacy and some more modern, and to bring those lessons back to the legacy programs and to think about the future, think about the opportunity that exists. CISA has always been I think fortunate in the position that it's in with cybersecurity and a need to be and continue to be modernized. And so with our programs, we get great opportunity and funding to go explore new and exciting ways to better manage our data, better manage our systems, and better provide services for the federal government in cybersecurity. And so we've spent a lot of time exploring that, bringing those lessons to wider programs, and I've seen through my group, in our shared services office, that implementation, that what we're capable of in terms of data management and the insights we're able to create across the federal government.
In the time that you've been at CISA, which is several years, more than 5 at this point, there's been an exponential rise in data. Is that really the impetus behind a focus of improving data management, breaking down silos across the government? Is it artificial intelligence? Is it all of the above? What's driving the push for better data management?
For cybersecurity, it's always been about our partnerships. You could mask that in the environment and AI, and those things are also very important. But cybersecurity kind of creates that unique opportunity for us to create a collective defense of cybersecurity. The need for partnerships, the need for a better way of managing our data, so that we can do more with that data. That can tie into obviously AI and things of that nature. But the basis of cybersecurity, threat detection, stopping threats, removing vulnerabilities, mitigating vulnerabilities, all of that has driven us to the point we are now, really what drives us in our mission. And the opportunities that are then created by better ways of managing data are exciting to support our mission and allow us to do some pretty incredible things.
Jennifer, so much to unpack there, so many threads I want to pull on from what Dave raised, but initially, what stood out to you? How does what he said align with a lot of the work that you've been doing around something called the Fed Tech Vision?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. And so much of what he said resonates with me. In our Fed Tech Vision, we really look at trends. And, the big picture that we're seeing is that agencies' view of data is shifting. It's not just a byproduct, it is the product. And increasingly, everyone wants to figure out, how can we use this data to drive decisions? How can we use it for mission, whatever those missions are? So cybersecurity, lots of obvious connections, but even, how do bonuses affect retention? How does deployment affect mental health? How does social media affect opinion? There's so many different ways that you can use data to get better insights into the problems that you're trying to address. And that's what we help agencies with day in and day out.
A lot of those insights rely on transparency, Dave. We were talking about this before we went on the air. Talk a bit about CISA's approach to transparency and how it relates to the larger data management conversation we're having.
Right. In cybersecurity, our need for transparency has really always been there. And now that the need for data transparency is becoming more prevalent, CISA's been leading, I believe, in that regard. When our systems and the security that we services that we provide to federal agencies, those services have historically been classified, using classified indicators, using classified information, and we've sat down with ourselves and said, hey, we really need to explore, how do we create more partnerships? How do we share information better? How do we do more with the people that we support, with our customers? And how do we do more internally as we look at bringing indicators of threat across our organization for the entire organization, to capitalize on and to understand and ensure that we are driving good decision making into those things, into the things that we do. We've taken a look at our services that use classified indicators, done analysis on them to say, can these be supported by commercial threat indicators and threat information? And the majority of what we've looked at has come back saying yes. We provide a lot of value with our classified indicators, but some of the unclassified information that we use that is more available to agencies, is something that they can action faster and better. And so we've started to utilize that in a lot more services. That's also allowed for better information sharing, faster information sharing, and more timely information, as these things are more shareable. As many people know, the classified indicators would require access to classified information, which is harder to share. Many organizations don't have the clearance level to see some of these things, and so it makes it really hard for us to create transparency for those things. And so as this has become kind of a pivot for a while now of partnering with agencies better, partnering with industry better, partnering with critical infrastructure better, we've taken a hard look and said this can be a competitive advantage for us and a good way for us to drive more success for the work that we're doing and bring that into our services. And so it's been a wild success for us to be more transparent. We've created more opportunity for ourselves, and now that we are being transparent, agencies get the opportunity to be transparent with us and use the information we provide them, bring that to their threat hunting, threat analysts, threat operators, bring that back to CISA as well and say, hey, look at this crowdsourced information that we can now pull together and action more decisions, action more opportunity for us to protect the federal enterprise.
Jennifer, that sounds like a pretty big shift in mindset to me. Am I reading that right?
Well, I love what he just said, because it's important when you think about how big of a shift it is to note that transparency doesn't always mean it's accessible to the public, right? Within government, where we need to start is ensuring data from across an agency is organized and accessible to specific stakeholders that can derive value from it. So it is a shift. Technologically, it can often be a shift. When we talk about data silos and classification, it's hard to make that happen. Sometimes you even have to start considering, new architectures. We did a survey, you mentioned our Fed Tech Vision, that found that 93% of US federal government executives agreed that emerging data management approaches like data fabric, data mesh, things that are relatively new, would become critical in optimizing their organization's value chain. So that piece is a shift. At the same time, the spirit of it, I think, is consistent. It's just been, having the tools and having that kind of impetus to make those changes that's shifting.
I'm going to steal on her words there. Value mentioned a couple of times. Earlier Jennifer said, and I thought this was a great soundbite, it's not just a byproduct, it is the product. Like, what is the value that CISA reaps from a mission perspective? What is the value that government more generally reaps from a mission perspective?
Well, with better data, CISA reaps better impact, which is what we're trying to do. The things that we do provide better security for the federal enterprise, support the federal enterprise in better security as well. And so we don't take successes for us are really not based on what CISA does necessarily. It's based on what agencies are able to do and what we're enabling agencies to do. And especially in cybersecurity, I think that's a good way to look at it across the board. And I think a lot of cybersecurity focused people do. And so, that's what the impact that we create and seeing that replicated, the information that's being provided, being used in threat analysis and being brought back to us to say, hey, this is something, can you help us? Can we explore more? That opportunity has been really inspiring for a lot of folks in CISA, and we're really seeing the success of that. And these are years of efforts for us to build those partnerships and provide that customer service and provide this level of data to agencies that is now starting to pay off.
She also pointed to public data, private data. Mm-hmm. Are there unique sets of challenges or unique opportunities presented by like one or the other or both?
For public data and information that way and data that way, I think there are challenges that exist with ensuring we're using the right information, sharing the right information and communicating that externally, using architectures that support the opportunity to share externally and support with partners in a more public manner, whether that be critical infrastructure, private industry, or international partners. I think we look at data in that regard as there are so many customers for CISA in terms of federal agencies and protecting federal agencies, but creating partnership with private industry and critical infrastructure, and through grant programs and the things that we do, that we're very used to dealing with the differences in types of data. And it's really all threat-based data that we're trying to share and give insights and share as much as we can, especially in an automated form. And so there's special considerations to those, but it's really the same thought process for us. How do we partner? Let's solve those obstacles and let's move out on those things. How do we build architectures that support those, right? And then we go and solve for those.
Jennifer, we've touched on this, but I'd like to do a bit more of a deep dive on the drivers of transparency. Like what's pushing the envelope there?
Well, there's a lot of factors, honestly. I mean, some of it is data transparency measures that have been passed by the White House, the OMB, and Congress. Some that affect contract, loan, and grant spending, pandemic relief spending. I mean, you see these in the news, right? So that's a driver. Another one is 5 years ago, the Evidence Act, which was all around using the best available data and creating, chief data officers. And I would argue, there's one we just saw last week around AI, which is really extensive. But, my takeaway is, experiment, right? I mean, these tools, we can't wring our hands and not try them because they'll be used against us. So it's really important to embrace these things. And we've got this kind of structure encouraging us to within federal. And, there's technological challenges, there's cultural challenges, but kind of getting everyone oriented around the goal, which is what we're talking about today, is what's most encouraging to me.
Dave, earlier you used, the ad hoc or pockets of excellence example, and I'm wondering if there are pockets of excellence for transparency. Where are you seeing this?
Yeah, I think that the best example, of course, not to gloat on my own team's success, but our focus on intrusion prevention systems and our protective DNS solution. We have that was one of those systems that we brought from using classified indicators to commercial indicators. We still have the ability to bring in threat information that is classified if needed, but to create an architecture to modernize a system that can demonstrate that, one, we can do this with unclassified information, but two, we can provide a customer experience, a service delivery effort, operations that are vastly different than how we've previously done it. And part of that is having those resources in place to create transparency. We have agencies that ask us, that service provides malicious domain blocking. And so when you go on the internet and access a malicious domain, it'll stop you from going there if it's on a predefined list. So agencies will ask, why couldn't I resolve to this domain? And we'll have to answer that question. But the system itself, and part of the teaching we're teaching agencies as they use this platform, is that some of that you can see within the platform. Some of that requires interaction with us, but we can now tell you all about that. And so we're really happy to do that. We're starting to bring in more technical features that allows for even less, have to ping CISA or come to CISA and talk about why this decision was made on your internet traffic. But as we drive those features in, we'll see even less of that interaction, but still provide that space, which has really been such a key factor for this remodernization of this service that we'd previously done through Einstein 3 Accelerated and E3A DNS synchrolling. That service now being primarily done by protected DNS, and so we've had a lot of success. And we look at the architecture we have, we look at the customer experiences we've provided, and I think it's been a resounding success. And the work we've done with Accenture on all of this has been helpful. To really drive a lot of our thought, our opportunities, and to explore and prototype things within the system and drive new features to the service itself.
Jennifer, big picture, where are we going from a data perspective? I've heard folks use the phrase data mesh or data fabric in various conversations. Like, what's the ideal future state look like?
Oh, what a great question. This is something I get asked every day, and often it's asked lately around the context of generative AI. You see what can be done with technologies like ChatGPT and how quickly, it got 10 million users, and, see what kids are doing and everything. And, it just kind of captivates people. You read in the news, that was the iPhone moment, and there's the optimism and the doom, and people get, kind of, it's really great because people, sometimes think that it can do more than it can do, right? I mean, it's not magic. It is, just highly trained algorithms, basically. But at the same time, it's a conversation starter. And, a lot of clients, it's kind of like a door opener, like, oh God, it's an invitation to rethink things. And it's great from a data architecture, platform, and modernization perspective for two reasons. Number one, do you know how this technology works? It's trained upon data, right? And whatever your use case is, if it has to do with synthesizing information, searching enterprise knowledge, better threat detection, whatever the application is, fine tuning on your data is going to help. So, it's a driver, obviously, for getting your kind of data together. And then in addition, it's also an opportunity to kind of to leapfrog some of the technical debt that you might have, right? I mean, technology's advanced so much that some questions, we just want to, try large. To my point about the executive order, there are many things that you can, we've kind of federalized ChatGPT into our own product called FedGPT, where it's, kind of safe to use and your data is not going anywhere you don't want it to. You can put your own guardrails in there around accuracy and all of that. And, with a tool like that, you can really open up a lot of, exploratory use cases, realize a lot of value, kind of try it in an experimentation kind of sandbox environment. And then, for example, with the coding, generative coding, you can implement that in your systems as a way to reduce technical debt much faster and potentially leapfrog ahead like we couldn't before. So it's a really exciting time to be in this area. Data mesh, data fabrics, data platforms are there. AI, machine learning kind of layered on top of that. I heard a talk earlier this week from the head of the Federal CDO Council, who said half of the federal agencies have an enterprise analytics capability right now. So, there's a lot of goodness happening across the federal space, and, new technologies that are increasingly powerful that kind of captivate, the public interest, I think, are just opening more doors for us to safely and securely leverage technology for mission.
We've covered so much ground. I mean, we've talked about transparency, generative AI, CX. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I'm conscious of time, so I'd love to get final thoughts from both you and from Jennifer. Dave, on the topic of security versus transparency or data sharing, that's a fine line you got to walk. Any advice to our audience?
Well, I think to what Jennifer was just saying about data fabrics and data mesh is us at CISA, the way we've approached shared services especially, is to explore that data mesh and to explore capabilities that allow for that. And I think that's been super important to our success. While at an organization level, we are really looking at how do we create that data fabric, spending a lot of time with creating that single pane of glass for our threat operators and bringing those into central resources, and putting a fence around our data. As we look at a programmatic side, as we look at our shared services, using data meshes to rapidly support the fabric, the data fabric that we're establishing, the strategy, the standardization of all of that, has been a huge success to our program, and why we've had so much, transparency with agencies, transparency with what we're doing and the future that is possible in DNS protection, and so we're super excited about all that opportunity. From a CISA-wide perspective, the use of both in security allows for us to do so many different things for the federal government. It allows us to create even more partnerships, create more bi-directional communication on threats and vulnerabilities, and we're really excited for that opportunity in the future. And as we bring in more technology like AI and machine learning, right, the combination of those is going to be super valuable as we ensure we've got clean data, but we've got an ability for the programs to explore those things and prototype opportunities with that, use AI, use ML, machine learning, to do more things for the protection of the federal government.
Jennifer, tie a bow on this video podcast for us. What did we miss?
We discussed so many important topics. I think really what's becoming clear, talking about shifts as we did earlier, is that data transparency and accessibility can drive huge benefits for a range of stakeholders within an agency and between agencies. And the fundamental technology that underlies that is maturing at the same time. So whether you're looking to improve your efficiency or to transform your relationship with users, citizens, taxpayers, customers, or be more collaborative within agencies to tackle those biggest, thorniest problems, having this kind of new open approach to becoming data-driven and having that mindset around data is key.
Well, Dr. Jennifer Sample, Managing Director at Accenture Federal Services, ma'am, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And Dave Mooney, Services Management Section Chief in the Cybersecurity Division over at CISA. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
For all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to learn more about today's discussion, go to www.accenturefederal.com. For the Federal Innovator Podcast series, I'm George Jackson. Have a great day.